Good afternoon, everybody. It is Native Dave back with another episode. I'm still here and I still have this podcast. I've been wanting to do episodes here and there, but the busyness of life, whether it was me trying to get my schooling done or trying to get back into the workforce, if not the leisure things like playing shows or family time, it's just been there on the back burner. But I thought I'd do one only because I watched a documentary over the weekend called The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, The Metal Years. How many of you are familiar with that documentary? I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it, and I'm sure that you can kind of already see where this is going. But I wanted to kind of just kind of talk on the relativity of then and now. So greetings, everybody. I hope y'all are doing good and having a good year so far. We are ending September just after this week, so entering this new fall season and the last quarter of the year. So let's do this. There's an excerpt that the person who did the documentary wrote. It says, "The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, The Metal Years. In the mid-80s, a new scene took over the Los Angeles nightlife. Heavy metal, loud, rude, sexy, sexist, and anti-authoritarian. The Metal Years takes an in-depth look at rabid fans, desperate groupies, wannabe rock stars that go so far as to threaten suicide if they don't make it. The film also portrays the harsh reality of the music business, where everyone's dream to become a star can't possibly come true. It's a real-life spinal tap that makes us look back and ask, what the hell were we doing?" That was an excerpt wrote for the documentary by Penelope Spheres. I believe she's the one who did the whole thing. Well, of course, as far as the idea, and so that's pretty cool. It was kind of cool to kind of revisit that. And I remember I was pretty young watching it. A lot of you probably come from that era and were pretty young as well, and a lot of you on the other hand may have not been born yet. But there's a lot of arguments as to where everything came from, but it's pretty clear when we look at history that a lot of what you hear today is just something that was inspired from back then, and going forward. There was the 80s, there was the 90s, and now the millennium. So there were some questions that were asked that I just kind of wanted to do kind of like a, compare and contrast, kind of type deal. A lot of them back then started in clubs. And of course, we're talking about the LA scene. And according to me, how I started was just some, native kid on the res, who grew up listening to metal, and started playing guitar, about 16, 17, and always wanted to be, a rock star, from what I saw, from bands like Kiss and, Slayer and early 80s stuff, Metallica, Megadeth, and so I started playing that stuff, and it was just kind of my own personal amusement, just fantasizing, but when I actually started to learn how to play the songs, I was definitely amusing myself, and got better at playing guitar altogether. But as far as my first show or gig, it was at a house party. And, we had a lot of drunk people cheering us on, which was cool because we were, covering songs. And there was, of course, an evolution to that, starting to play a Battle of the Bands and then playing at this place in Casa Grande called Rockabye Records. That was back when I used to, have fun jamming with old friends, and I'm pretty sure they know who they are. But it was fun. It was fun. So that was my first real taste of playing off the res, and in front of a different crowd, as opposed to, drunk rest out people. But it wasn't until later when I got called to jam out with what became Guardians, and again, it wasn't even an idea to come and jam and let's start a band. It was just invitation to just come and jam, and that's kind of how that started. And from that point on, playing again, starting out on the res here on the Dawn Out Damnation, playing a house show for a group that invited us out, and kind of went from there again, similarly to how I started out back, just. But as far as like Guardians, we did play, which was kind of more of a respectful community event, because we had like elderly there, we had royalty there, we had representatives, community representatives, chair people, and it's kind of crazy because here we come, making all this noise at a respectful event. But after that, we created our first Facebook page. Must have been either 2015 or 16, and took off into the scenes. But as far as like clubs, the venues that we've been playing, are respectful, and a lot has changed in between, then the early 80s and now, and how, everything was portrayed, as far as like the metal years or the scene and what they were doing. And I'll be covering some of those things. So like we play more of the respected venues, just the small bars, of course, as you all know, or venues that host shows, for like professional bands as well. So that's always cool to kind of get on that stage too. The next one was makeup and gimmicks, or makeup/gimmicks. A lot of these bands, when you look at the Metal Years documentary, a lot of them were in glam bands, what they call glam, or and a lot of them wore ladies' outfits, or just lady, what do you call it? Like scarves, just the whole makeup and hairdo back then, and it's what glam was all about, But glam, as opposed to like makeup and gimmicks, like when we started out, I think I was the only one that thought of wearing some type of prop, as a gimmick for myself, only because I was in a position where it would have been some type of conflict or of interest for me to be to be seen out there. And so what I did was I kind of disguised myself by wearing a mask, and until I couldn't, until it got so hot in the mask that it's kind of hard to breathe. And I didn't really know a direction I was going for myself, as far as like my role in the band and how I was going to portray myself. But I just knew that I had to kind of disguise myself somehow. So after wearing the mask a few times, I thought about paint, which worked even better because I could breathe. It was just now trying to deal with paint. And so kind of getting more and more into the scenes, I noticed there were other bands out there that were using paint, which was cool. Because you're talking about a guy like me who grew up on the res, grew up down on the reservation, and never really got out. Always saw things through a lens, whether that lens was magazines, videos, MTV, and then when finally discovering that there was a scene, within the two major cities and where down south where I am, Tucson and Phoenix. It was just a whole different thing to see for me, for me to see, and so I was amazed, to see bands, that were using props and using, certain gimmicks, to represent themselves, and I felt like I kind of fit in. But even then, just our band at the time, in the early days was kind of something that caught people's eye, and which was pretty cool, However, a couple of guys in the band, did wear go ahead and wear paint, and it didn't last long with them, but they put it on, and it was cool. Today I see more and more, with upcoming bands, and it's cool. I like how people use those type of props to kind of describe what they're doing, but back then, the gimmicks or makeup was more, as far as the documentary goes, was more feminine. Bands like Poison, London, what other bands were on there? Lizzie Borden. I think Alice Cooper was on there. Kiss. So it kind of looked at the different images of what was happening, and how they were attracting girls. That was kind of the main thing, was which brings me to my next topic, is sex, drugs, and rock and roll. A lot of them in the documentary were actually consenting to, that they were out there for sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and that's what the whole lifestyle was about, in those times, as opposed to now, the scenes that we're in, I mean, I'm sure that maybe it can be there if you're looking. And that's kind of a reason to get out, then you might find it. Drugs is definitely there, because I have definitely been around, the drug usage, and then the scene, the rock here, they're calling it sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But as far as like what we were playing, and the social, crowds that we play around, are a lot of metal, rock, and just different genres. But as for us, we weren't kind of coming to these areas for sex or drugs. We just were coming to play. But like I said, I'm sure it can be there if one is looking and that's what they want out of it. Then I'm sure. Um, we're clean, and that's not to say in any way, to you know downgrade anything. It's just that we, for certain reasons, sobered up, and we're sober and we just like to play. However, for me personally, I have no, ill feelings toward anybody that uses, and they come and that's how they like to um, experience the show. That's cool. I mean, I see it all the time. I'm just me. I'm just so it can be there, but a lot of what we see now is pretty positive. It's all responsible. Everybody uses responsibly, drinks responsibly, and that's good. That's what, if anything, that's what we would encourage us to just be responsible. The next one that I wrote down was advertising. A lot of the earlier advertising was done through flyers. That's funny because they were talking about how they would put up flyers and other bands would come and put their flyers over their flyers. And then this band would come back and tear off the other band's flyer and crush it up and, throw it away and, put more of their flyers. So it was kind of, so I saw that it was kind of like a battle of advertising, how but bands like The Rock in Tucson, I remember going there as a teen to see, I can't remember. I've been there though. I remember as a teenager seeing bands, but I remember coming out and there's a bunch of flyers on your windshield, under your windshield wiper. I don't know. I don't know if that's done anymore, but I know that back then, that's kind of how it was done. It was more expensive back then to advertise, to have flyers made and printed and, put out. Sometimes you had to drive around just to put flyers here and there, or go to certain events to like that, hand out flyers, put them on cars and everything. Where today, we can, still receive flyers, but, share them through social media, which is less expensive, and, you don't have to travel. There are still bands that do that. I know that we've put flyers here in cells, and also one time I was asked to put one in Coverwells at the store over there. So it's still done here and there. But those things, they do actually work. I remember, thinking of putting one here at the post office and then also at Bashas. These are places where the majority of the people go, to check their mail, get their groceries, and everybody's always stopping to look at the bulletin board. So, why not? You know what I mean? Next one. Why or how did you get into rock and roll? It was interesting learning about, why or how they got into rock and roll back then. And it was just the same as, everybody else. They saw a band and wanted to be out there like that. which is kind of like what I talked about earlier, growing up and, seeing and hearing, these bands and, kind of like that was kind of like my dream, like, wow, I want to do that. Like, I want to be on stage and, have things blowing up and pyro. And so, but, my older brother, was kind of like the immediate person, who got me into like bands like Queensryche or Jane's Addiction or Accept. What else did he listen to? Whitesnake. So it's bands like that. However, I remember listening to or playing vinyl records when I was a kid, to like bands like Journey and Man at Work and things like that. The Beatles. My older brother had Kiss vinyls, so like that was kind of like where I really, started to really like be in awe, like, wow, this is cool. But it wasn't until I started living, with my cousin, where, like I said, he's the one that kind of helped me, get me more into, the more extreme stuff, like death metal, more of the heavier metal like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and Venom was a kind of a big deal for us. It was just because we grew up in Christian homes, and I don't know if it was kind of like an outlet for us to kind of rebel. But we were already in it, so the music was, we liked the music. So it's like, we weren't liking it, for what it was about, but then again, I can't say, because I was young, and why did I like it? I liked it because I liked how it sounded. I liked that it was against what I was supposed to be about. What I was, the conditioning of growing up in a Christian home, was something that, we used that to more or less kind of break out of and be on our own in this type of, music. So we got into, some pretty cool bands, but that's kind of how I got into it, and he was a major influence on getting me into more of the death grindcore and brutal stuff. Anyways, so the next thing I wrote down from there, Ricky Rackman came up with the Cat House, and that was basically about groupies. And a lot of these bands were talking about, that that's kind of why, they were doing it too, was to get a following, to have groupies, so that they could, play shows and party with them afterwards, and have sex. And so that's kind of like one of the things that the reasons, I guess you can say, as opposed to now, I don't know if bands are, in the business or in it to gain groupies. I mean, we definitely love our followers, our fans, and anybody that comes out, to support the shows, and who's come up to us and told us how much they enjoyed our shows, but we never looked at them, any other way than just, a fan, or, and so, I don't know, that could still be around here and there, but I don't really see it. I do see an entourage of people that come with bands, so I don't know if I wouldn't compare those two, because it's kind of different. So the next one, do you do it for money or do you do it to make a living? A lot of them were doing it for money and to make a living. There were a couple of bands that were asked, what would you do if you didn't make it? Do you have a backup plan? A lot of them said that they would probably kill themselves, commit suicide, or drink themselves to death, or overdose, because they didn't know anything else to do. As opposed to today, for us, or for me, I guess I should really just speak for me, because this is, Native Dave Talks, right? I'm not in it for the money. Like I said, growing up, I fantasized about, being on stage and the lights, and because it's what I grew up with. I grew up listening to Kiss, watching Venom videos, getting into more extreme stuff, and just, the headbanging, the metal, and I always fantasized about that, like, wow, I want to do that, like, I wish I could, I wish that could be me. Today I mean, it's cool if we get paid, you know what I mean? And we do sometimes, get a cut from the door, or, from promoters, which is cool, but I'm totally not in it to try to make a living off of it, or for the money. I do it because it's, it's what I love to do. I am a musician. After my dad and my uncle, who were musicians, and likewise my brother, who I share the stage with, every night that we play shows. So it's a love for the music, and sharing that with people. Now, if I was to ever, make it, get signed, and was sent off to Europe, to do festivals, and to Brazil, and to Asia, or wherever, I would definitely do it. But that's, never say never, and never, stop dreaming, never stop striving, to be what you want to be. I can still dream, and that will be cool. But at my age, and where I'm at with everything, I'm just happy to share music, to connect to other musicians, to connect with fans, to connect with the crowd, to even be in the crowd watching other bands, is something that I like to do. I'm a fan myself of some of these locals, that we play with, and I like their music, and I follow them. I definitely would, be right there in the front row, checking them out. Jobs / rock stardom. I work right now. I'm trying to get back into work, but I've been working since I started my role with Guardians. I've been working in the health and human services field, and it's kind of like the field I'm in. I had just finished my community college years. I finished the Associates of Arts in Social Work program. So I'm going to be receiving my degree. So definitely rock stardom again. It would be cool if I knew that it would provide for the rest of my life, financially. But then again, I really have to think about it. I'm in my 40s. Do I actually want to grow old? And I see a lot of stuff on MTV, on YouTube, of bands that are conflicting right now, that are doing reunion shows and conflicting. Do I really want to, be tired, burned out, and trying to do this in an old age? I think I'm cool. So as far as rock stardom, I don't want to say I got what I wanted, but because I'm not totally ready to quit. I mean, I love doing what we do, but also working, to support what we do is another thing. But not only to support what we do, but to support families and ourselves, to sustain a life, you know what I mean? To have a sustainable life, it's good to have a job to support yourself and still have that leisure time to be out there and jam out with, play shows and things like that. So yeah, sorry I had to pause there real quick. But what's the other one? Are you destructive? A lot of that were in the documentary, well, just a handful, according to the documentary, were destructive, trashing hotels, venues, and, it was kind of what they did back then, Today it's unheard of, there's still the touring bands, and they're more respectful now. It's a whole new day and age. As opposed to, the days of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, rock stardom, that's what was happening. They were trashing hotel rooms and, from night to night, getting drunk and, being destructive. No, I am not destructive. I don't come with the intentions of, destroying things. If anything, if I had an extra bass, I would probably break my bass on stage like Kronos did way back. No, I'm just kidding. I love my bass. I have a Metal Man bass, and it's pretty cool. No, I'm not a destructive person. I read about it. I saw videos, and back then it would have been something to see. But today, it's I don't know. So no, no. I nor, as far as I know, are my bandmates destructive. We're cool. We don't do those things. That was actually all the topics that I wrote down. But there's a quote that Paul Stanley said on the documentary. It was that I can't remember what question they were asking him, but he said that people who tell you you can't be something, or that you can't do that, meaning whatever, he said those are the ones that fail. He said, why would I listen to them? He said, just look at where I'm at now. And he was laying, if you watch the documentary, you'll see him laying in I don't know if it's a bed, but I don't think it's a bed, because he had I don't know, 6 girls laying by him. And so I wanted to add that quote only because it's true. I mean, I guess it kind of depends how it's said and who's saying it. You know what I mean? And people tell you, you can't be that, or it won't work, or no, don't do that. A lot of times, maybe they failed at it. What I'm learning this year, and just for me personally, I had an epiphany, and I felt like this was a year of being re-inspired, because I saw a lot of things happening, in the metal world. I was gonna say metal community, but when I think of metal community, I think of the local scenes. But in the metal world overall, and what I like, and what a lot of us like, bands, we've seen a lot of falling out. We've seen a lot of backlash. We've seen a lot of bands, that are reforming. And there was just something that really hit me, and I felt like, for me personally, this is a year of being re-inspired, because we should always, have some type of goal, something that, we're working toward or moving toward, in life, never mundane, where it's just pointless and I don't know why I'm doing this, and and then we burn out, where as to where, if we have something, that we are inspired by, or something that we want to share, like an idea, I guess, it's always good to kind of act on them, and there's been this, nothing has never been done. It's been done, and that's the beauty of it. You can create your idea, your way, your vision, and do it, even if it was done before. There's, like I said earlier, a new day and age. There's new people that are new to this and will be very in awe, or you might even inspire somebody. I've been told a lot of things at many shows, about whether it was the paint or my playing, just my style, and have been complimented on it, and it felt good. I mean, yeah, I thank them, and I have had questions on how I started or what gear I use, and it always it always makes you to want to be better. But that's kind of the part where we get better at our craft. We get better at our skill, our profession, ourselves as a person, developing. So those are things to kind of look forward to. And if you do have an idea that seems outrageous, so what? You know what I mean? Do it. Don't let somebody say, oh, you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that because of whatever. But if it's something that it's in your heart, and you feel like it won't harm anybody, you know what I mean, physically, then there's always going to be critics in the crowd. There's always going to be critics on social media, and we see it in the metal world. I know, we all know. Just go look on YouTube. There's critics. And the point that I guess I'm trying to make is just just do it. That's the whole thing I'm going off of with this whole Paul Stanley comment that I ended with, was that people will tell you can't be something, or that you can't do something, are the people that probably failed at trying to do it themselves, or maybe who've never taken steps because of fear. So I'm coming up right now to the end of my time here. It's gonna cut me off, so I want to end by saying thank you for listening, and I'll try to get more podcasts, and that way I don't really want them to be too long either. So if I can just create a better script and just nail it, then it'll be something good to listen to. However, if you haven't seen The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, The Metal Years, I suggest you check it out. It was something for us to be in awe about when we were young, watching it. I believe I was in my teen years when I was watching it, and there's just something that happens to you, and almost in an inspiring way. What a good way to kind of end that. But all right, guys, it's gonna cut me off in like 20 seconds. Thank you for listening to this episode of Native Dave Talks. Is it talks or speaks? Anyways, thank you. Have a good week and be safe. Have a good autumn or fall season.